About a month ago, I turned 40. It's hard to believe, but we're here. We're at 40 years old, and God willing, I have another 40 years ahead of me. But it got me thinking about all the lessons that I've been so fortunate, or maybe unfortunate, to learn along the way. And I realized because my spiritual gift is teaching, and this is a teaching podcast about all things music, ministry, and leadership, that so many of the lessons that I've learned apply to all of those areas. And so I wanted to share those lessons, the 40 lessons that I've learned, the 40 most important lessons that I've learned in my first 40 years of living. And I realized while putting together this list that if I were to do them all in one episode, it would be a really long episode. And while I am famous for being able to talk for a long time on my own, I realize that that might not be the easiest to listen to. So, what I'm planning on doing is a four-part series on the 40 lessons that I've learned in my first 40 years of living. And they are broken down into several different categories. But today, I want to do what I call the personal category, the top 10 in no particular order, but just 10 lessons that I've learned at 40. And then these over the next few podcasts, we'll talk about some different music lessons I've learned, ministry lessons, business lessons, all of those things. So I hope and I know that these lessons will be really valuable for you. And so enjoy these. These are the top 10 or the first 10 lessons that I've learned in my first 40 years of living. And so I want to start right here that lesson number one: how I treat people says more about me than it does about them. Right. So, all of us have a variety of different relationships and a lot of different dynamics that we deal with on a daily basis, both in our families, our friend groups, our church, our social groups, our families, all of those things, our workplace. We have a lot of different relationships in our lives. And the reality that I've learned in my years of living is that how I treat people, it really has to say, it says more about me than what it does about them. And so I can't control how people act. I can't control what people do. I can't control how people react. I can't control what they say. I can't control that stuff, right? But what I can control is how I choose to treat them. So like you, I've also been mistreated a lot over my life. Like we all have situations where people have treated us incorrectly, or maybe we didn't see eye to eye. And I realized that how I treat them says what I value, and how they treat me, it says what they value. And I don't want to compromise the things that I value, the things that I know are important, just because somebody else mistreats me. And so, what I've learned over the years is that I genuinely try to be a nice person. I try to be kind. I try to be as gentle as possible. I try to uplift the people around me. I try to make them laugh. Like those are the things that are important to me. That's how I believe God made me and made me wired. And so there are some situations where, if I'm honest, I don't feel like being that way towards that person for a variety of reasons, right? Like maybe they mistreated me. Maybe they said something that I didn't like, or maybe they were just mean to me. Maybe they were just cold to me. Maybe they didn't reciprocate my emotions towards them. And I can't control that, but I can control how I react. I can control how I treat them. So I'm going to respond to negativity with as much kindness as I can. Now, I say this is a lesson learned because I've had to learn that over the years. Like, you don't work in education and in ministry for 20 some years and not have to have a bit of a thick skin. Because I had a pastor friend tell me one time that everybody has an opinion and everybody's right. And he said that as a joke just to remind me that everybody's got an opinion of how things should run. And if I want people to feel open enough to suggest ideas and maybe to offer areas of insight into some of my blind spots, I need to be open to that. But just because somebody has an idea, it doesn't mean that I need to take that idea and run with it. All right. So I want people to feel heard, and I want people to feel better when they've had an interaction with me. And that means that sometimes I have to treat people better than they treat me. And that's okay, because I know at the end of the day, I don't want to compromise on the things that I know are important to me. I wanna be able to sleep at night knowing I did the absolute best I could, and I might not have had the answer right, but I treated them with kindness, I showed up for them, I was dependable, all of those things, and so what I wanna encourage you today is to not let how other people treat you change how you know you want to treat them. And believe me, this is a hard lesson, right? Because some people are you just don't see eye to eye with. And some people you're just going to clash. And that's okay. Clashing is okay. Being honest is okay. Those things are fine. It's a natural part of human connection and human life. But at the same time, for me, I want to treat people kindly. And I want to treat people with respect. And I want to treat them with dignity, and so I'm not gonna let how you treat me change that. Now that might mean I might not give you as much access as I might give other people, because 'cause I'm not in a position to constantly get hurt. But at a baseline level, I'm gonna treat you with kindness, I'm gonna treat you with respect, I'm gonna treat you with dignity, I'm gonna do what I can to uplift your life, to bring some laughter to it, and I'm gonna do that regardless of how you treat me, because that's just what I know is right. Alright, number 2. If somebody spends time with you, like clears their schedule and makes time for you got to treat that as special, because it is. Like in 40 years, I've learned that my most precious resource is time, because all of us have a finite time on this earth. And so if I'm willing to give you, or if somebody's willing to give me a few hours of their time to spend time with me, to care about me, to help me problem solve or anything like that, I'm going to treat it as special, because it really is. Like if you're watching this show or you're listening to this podcast and you think about what your day looks like today, right now, where you're watching, I would be willing to bet that your day kind of looks like mine, which is a laundry list of things you want to get done. And that's not even counting the things you want to do, you just don't have time for, right? All of our days are busier and busier. And so I have realized that when somebody is willing to spend some time with me to help me problem solve, or to just hear me out, or to run an idea by them, I'm gonna treat that as really special, because it is. Like when you spend time with somebody, like real time, like take them out to lunch, uninterrupted time where you really just get to connect, or you take somebody out to a movie, or whatever the case may be, that's special. And so that lesson I've learned over the years is there are some people who have really poured into my life, and some of them it was financial or it was a connection that they were able to provide. But to be honest, the biggest resource that I value was that somebody took the time to spend time with me, because that's where they made the biggest impact. So my second lesson is, if somebody spends time with you, treat it as special, because it really is. All right, number 3. I can decide what to do with my circumstances. Like, I am not a victim to my circumstances. And I know when you hear that, you're going to have an initial response, because I did for the first 40 years I've lived. Is, well, yeah, but I didn't have this opportunity, or I would have developed more at this church, but man, I was getting held back by this reason, or by this boss, or this supervisor, or this person in my organization, or this person in my family. They did this to me. And to be honest, that's not to minimize any of your trauma or legitimate things that we walk through. But at the end of the day, you and I, we're not victims to our circumstances. We can decide what to do with them. Like, I can decide if somebody is mean to me in my organization or in my workplace, or if somebody at my church says something that I think is unkind, right? I can either let that get in me and I can be a victim to it, and said, "Not me. This is why things never work out. This is why this isn't happening. This is why I can't start that business. This is why I'll never get ahead in life." All of those things, I have to remember that I get to decide what I do with that. I can't change what happened to me, but I can change what I do moving out of it. And that's a lesson that really wish I had learned in my late 20s into my 30s. I mean, you have to remember, I'm 40 now. So I graduated college in 2008. And as a resident millennial, we've had one uh, unprecedented event after another. It feels like my whole adult life. And it would be easy, and it was easier in my 20s and 30s to say, well, I can't achieve this because I don't have this, or because I don't have this contact, or because I don't look a certain way, or because I don't talk a certain way, or because I value other things, right? I can decide what I want to do with those circumstances, right? Like for years, I felt like God was calling me to start my own music lesson studio. For years, I felt that. In fact, I just saw a Facebook post from me in 2008 where I felt like God was calling me to start a lesson studio. It didn't get started until late 2025 into 2026. So that was 18 years where I came up with every excuse in the book why I shouldn't do it, why I didn't have the money to do it. I didn't know what I was doing. That would anybody even take lessons with me? Like that's transparent. That's real life. Like I don't know how to get a space. I don't know how to do these things, right? And so I felt for years that I was just never smart enough to be a business owner. Or I tried launching a couple of things and they just didn't go anywhere. And I realized that I was playing the victim to not being able to start a business, that I just told myself over and over again that I wasn't good enough to do it. And it wasn't until I learned this lesson about this time last year where I said, It's time to do it. Like, I'm going to be turning 40, and I don't want to look back and say, I wish I had done this because I've seen too many people in my life have that mindset where they felt like they were called to start a business or to achieve something, a dream that they wanted to do, but they let the fear hold them back. And I don't want to do that. So I have some personality things I'm still working through, some mental health things, as we all do. We all have things that we're working towards and working through. But I'm going to choose to use those to influence my circumstances for positive than to be a victim and let them hold me back. I'm not doing that anymore. And so when we launched KF Music Studio and when we started this podcast about a year ago, that was it was scary. Like it's scary to turn on a camera and to record these podcasts and to put them up. Especially when you think about all the prep work that goes into it and you might not see any results. And that's fine because if one person hears one of these lessons and gets something out of it, then it's worth it. And so I want you to decide what are you going to do with the hand you've been dealt? Because God deals us all a different hand. And we can choose to be upset with God and say, hey, why didn't I get this? Why did they have that? And I have this. Or you can say, all right, God, this is what you've dealt me. So I'm going to do the best I can with it. Number 4, I believe that there is a season to most things in life. Like a season like the seasons, right? Like summer, winter, fall, spring. That there's a season to everything in life. And a big lesson I've learned in my 40s now is that nothing lasts forever, good or bad. And that helps me navigate the seasons. So we just moved up here to Central Florida a few months ago. My wife and I did. Hard to believe it's only been a few months, and it's hard to believe it's been a few months already. But when we moved here, that was very challenging. It was challenging to leave a job I was very happy with, to leave our church family that we loved. My wife had a great job, a great gig, but we felt like this was the decision that God was calling us towards, and we always wanted to do it. And the first few months were a little difficult. Like we didn't know anybody up here. We just moved to an area and it's been challenging to navigate that season. But this truth helped us to navigate that feeling and navigate that season, is that it's not going to last forever, that these hard times are not going to last, that God is working behind the God is working behind the scenes to orchestrate some big things, and He's starting to open up some doors that we didn't have before. And so, knowing that everything has a season helps us in the good times, because it helps us to remember, hey, things are going really well now, but I need to keep working. I need to keep preparing for the times when things might not go so well. And this is in every area. This is in business, this is in finance, this is in your family relationships, your marriage, your families, your relationships with your kids, with your siblings, with your parents. Like, there's a season to most things, and everybody is walking through a different season. And so I want you to take heart in the fact that nothing lasts forever. That, said a different way, things are never as good as you think they will be, and they're never as bad as you think they are, right? So if things are going really well, just remember that things can turn around in an instant. But if things are going poorly right now, know that you are one or two decisions away, or one or two changes in your life to improve your life greatly. And so I just want you to know that there are seasons to everything. And I know when I say that out loud, somebody's going to hear that as, well, yeah, if things are never as good, or, you can play that victim mentality if you feel like just because things are never as good, you feel like you have to have a depressing outlook on life. And I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, to be realistic, that bad times don't last, good times don't last, that everything has a season. And so you praise God in the seasons that you're healthy and your family's healthy, and that financially you're doing well, and then you pray to God in the times that things aren't going so great. And just know that everything has a season. It will come back around, and so keep doing the things that you know you need to do. And bad times won't last, and good times, you want to try to keep them there as long as possible. So my fifth lesson I've learned, that I this is one that I feel like nobody told me, but I'm going to tell you, because if you're not 40 yet, this is something you realize really quickly on in your 30s, is that days and weeks slip by so much faster as you get older. Like, I can't believe at the time of this recording, I'm recording this, it's April 1st. Like, where did the beginning of 2026 go? Like, we're already through the first quarter of 2026. That's crazy. Like, I feel like we just moved up here to the Orlando area. We've been here 4 months. Like, that we're in our fourth month. Like, that's crazy. And I'm convinced that time is speeding up like crazy. And so what that's caused me to do, understand that fact, that hey, my perception of time is speeding up. So I need to make sure that I am really intentional with my time. And that actually started with me a few days ago, where I was going through this list again, and I've been saying for a while. I mean, my birthday was over a month ago, and I really wanted to do a 40 lessons at 40, and I just really struggled with creating the time to record this. And I realized that it's because the time is just slipping away and time is speeding up, and I didn't I use the excuse that we all use when we have projects that maybe we feel a little insecure about, but we know we want to do them, is I don't have the time. Or if we don't want to do something, we just say, I don't have the time for that. And the reality is, we have the time. I know I have the time, because if I check my screen time on my phone, I know that I have many hours of my week are just slipping away on things that don't matter. And worse, when you're a business owner, is that you can justify them. Like, I run an online music lesson studio. So it's really easy for me to say, well, I need to be online. I need to see current trends in the algorithm, and I need to reach out to clients. And all of those things are really important. But if I'm honest, I'm doing those not because that's really what I want to be doing, then, is I'm just doom scrolling. And all of us millennials, I feel like we all do it to a different level. So I've tried to understand that because I know my time is speeding up, my perspective of time is speeding up, that I need to be even more intentional with my time. That I need to say, hey, if I don't feel like my devotion life is where I want it to be, and I'm not spending enough time reading scripture and praying and praying for one another and all those things, then I need to make the time. And if I don't feel like I have the time to work out, or if I'm not happy with where my fitness is, if I'm not happy with where my business is, where my relationships are, then I need to spend the time fixing them because I have the time. We all have the time. We just need to be intentional with the time that we're given. All right, number six, what you don't deal with in your 20s will shape your 30s, right? Let me say that again. What you don't deal with in your 20s is going to shape your 30s. All right, so let me tell you what I mean by that. As somebody who has lived through both those decades, all my 20s and all my 30s, I can tell you that there were some kind of mental health things I had to work through, some insecurities I had in my 20s. If I'm honest, I tend to be a sarcastic person. So I tend to use humor to deflect situations so I don't get hurt, right? That's a natural human response. I didn't realize I was doing that so much until in my 30s. I felt like I was being called to step out in some different areas, to start KF Music Studio, to go out on my own, to provide for my family, to do the things that I wanted to do. And because I hadn't done the work to deal with that insecurity in my 20s and to figure out, to identify when I was feeling insecure and to make a plan when I was feeling insecure, I've now in my 30s had to go back and try to relearn how to talk to myself and how to talk about myself, how to not use self deprecating humor as an excuse to just be insecure and to not try. And that's really tough. So if you're watching this and you're in your 20s, can I tell you, don't ignore the things that you know you need to work on. Like there were things I knew I needed to work on. There were some physical things I knew I needed to work on. There were some business things. There was financial things, all those things. The things that I really worked on in my 20s became my greatest asset in my 30s. But the things that I sort of ignored, they're coming back full force, right? Like between you and me, I've always felt a little bit insecure about the things that I've known and the talent that I am able to bring. Like, I'm a professional musician. I've been doing this my whole life. But every time I see another teacher or another musician, or if I go on social media and I see them posting things, I look at it and I say, man, I wish I could do that. And then have to remember, like, no, God called me to run this race, this lane right here that I'm in. He didn't call me to do that. He called me to do this. Now, does that mean there are better musicians than me? Absolutely. Of course. Are there better business owners? Are there better husbands, better siblings? Like, yeah, absolutely. But I need to run the race that I've been given. I need to work on the things that I noticed in my 20s. I need to work on them continually. And if you do that work in your 20s, then in your 30s, you can turn them into an asset. All right. So don't let your mindsets and your habits that you develop in your 20s, like, don't let them hold you back. So develop good habits. So if one of your habits are you want to eat right and you want to get in the gym and you want to get healthy, well, then you need to build those habits, build those in. I've heard it takes 21 days to build a habit and 90 days to build a lifestyle. So it's not too late, but work on those things in your 20s so that they will become assets in your 30s. All right, number seven. We should just be a lot more honest with ourselves and with others, and a lot more kind. Like, I don't realize how much of my 20s and 30s I was lying to myself, just telling myself flat out lies. And how many times I was lying to other people, or how many times I wasn't honest with the situation I was in or how things made me feel, that I told myself a narrative. And I also don't think that being honest and being kind are opposites. In fact, I actually think they need to be hand in hand. That if I'm going to tell you something honestly how I feel, I want to do it in a kind way, but I also want to make sure that I don't be unnecessarily cruel because I've had bosses, I've had other ministry leaders, I've had them tell me things that were incredibly hurtful, but then they would say, "Well, I'm just being honest." And it's like, yeah, but if you're honest and unkind, that message doesn't get across. But if you are honest and kind and you work together to try to resolve a situation you feel, that's when real growth will happen. But you can't have one without the other, I don't think. Like, I can't be honest to my wife about something and say it in an unkind way. Like, I can't talk to myself in a way that I would never let somebody else talk to me. I have to talk to myself with positivity, with honesty, with kindness to say, hey, there's that thing, that insecurity is popping up again, but I want you to work through it. I want you to push through it. Don't be afraid of it, feel the emotion, but then let's move forward. And so I wonder how much better all of our relationships would be if we were honest with each other in a way that was more kind. Now, I know you're going to hear that, and some of you are going to think, you know what? My friend has really been annoying me lately, so I'm going to be honest with them. Thanks, Kevin. I'm going to be honest with them. And it's not worth torpedoing a relationship because you were honest, but you weren't kind, right? Because we all know what that feels like when somebody says, I'm just being honest, and really they're just being mean or they're projecting their own insecurities onto you. So I have tried in my 40s now to try to be more honest with myself and more honest with the people around me. And that's hard to do because we as people, especially me who has I have people pleasing tendencies, that it's tough for me to push back sometimes and say, "Hey, actually when you said that or when you did that, like I'm going to work through it, but that really bothered me." Because then you're worried that a little thing is going to become a big thing. And sometimes honesty in small things will build a relationship. In fact, most of the times I think it does. Like I think when I think about my friends and I think about the times I've been honest with them and said, "Hey, actually like when that happened, when you made that decision, it actually negatively impacted me and I'm kind of frustrated by it. And I don't want you to fix it. Like I just want you to know that that's the situation we're in and that I'm working through it and that's where I'm coming from." Cuz a lot of times we don't even realize that we are negatively impacting the people around us. We are all trying to do the best that we can for the life we've been given. And we all use the experiences and the education and all those things that we've learned up to this point. We try to use those to make good decisions. But at the end of the day, we're all just trying to figure it out. And so I'm trying in my 40s to be more honest with myself and to be more kind. And it's really been awesome. It's been great for how I talk to myself. It's building my confidence and how I talk to others. Number eight, the lessons I've learned at 40 is I want to be the friend that I wish I had or that I want to have. In my 20s and my 30s, I had friends, but it was really hard to get to know me. I was not very open. In a lot of ways, I'm still not very open. Um, Maybe that's the INFJ in me, but it takes a long time for me to feel comfortable enough to share with you all the parts of me. And I don't do that very often. And so I realized that my whole 20s and 30s that I really was craving some good friendships and I was always waiting on somebody else to make the first move to see that and to notice that I needed a friend and would reach out. And I realized that that just doesn't happen. Like, I don't do that for other people because I don't notice those things. Like, I'd have to be the friend that I want to have. So that means I have to understand that everybody is looking for friends who take the initiative and who actively show that they care. Like, I need to do that for other people. I need to notice things with other people, and I need to be the initiator to build that relationship. because I realize it's really unfair for me to complain in my head about friends that I've had or acquaintances that I've had or colleagues that I've had, complain about what they're not doing, but I also am not doing it. Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, I need to do the things that I want friends of mine to do. I need to model that in a lot of ways. And also understand that there are some people that will just never reciprocate that. And that's okay. Going back to the original point number one, how I treat people says more about me than it does about them. And so I've really tried hard to be the friend that shows that takes the initiative and shows that they care, that reaches out first. And it's been so cool to see how some of my relationships have been blessed because of that. Number 9, you will never regret doing what you know is right. Like, never. So when you think about decisions that you have to make in your life, small decisions, big decisions, I have never one time regretted doing the right thing. But I have regretted taking the easier path and lying and cheating and stealing and like those avenues of life when I take the low road or when I don't do the things that I know are right. That's when I regret those decisions. Like, I think that most of the time, the right path is a harder path to walk. It's harder, it takes more discipline, but it's always better. So I think about times in my life where I had to make a decision that I felt was right, but it was a really tough decision to make. But if I knew it was the right thing to do, then at the end of the day, when I look back, it wasn't actually that tough. It just felt tough in the moment. But it was the right decision, and I've never regretted it. Because I believe that God has me on a path here and is kind of directing my life and is taking all the pieces in my 20s and 30s and finally like piecing them together and making me understand why I walk through experiences in my 20s and 30s. And because now it's making me a better leader and a better business owner, a better pastor. And so I want to encourage you, don't be afraid to do the right thing because you'll never regret it. Like, I never regret the times that I did the right thing, but I do regret the times that I took the easy route or I took a shortcut or I didn't give my best. I do regret those times, but don't regret I should say, you will never regret doing the right thing. And our last of our first part of the lessons I've learned at 40 is that most relationships in your life have a cyclical pattern, right? Like, every relationship that you have has a pattern to it. There are times when the pattern is you're spending maybe more time together and you're at maybe a high point of your relationship. Then there are other times when life gets in the way and you don't get to spend as much time with them. Or there are times when you are just clicking and you're both at the same point of life and you're thriving. And then there's other times when you're not. And that's okay. Sometimes I realize I've perceived those downturns in relationship patterns as, oh, they just don't want to spend time with me anymore. They don't like me, they don't love me, they don't care about me anymore. But I need to know this lesson that most relationships are cyclical. My marriage is cyclical. Like, the relationship I have with my siblings, it's cyclical. Like, sometimes we are clicking and other times we're not. And when I understand that, that helps me to approach conversations with more honesty. And it helps me to say, this is where we're at. And do I want to stay here? Do I want to stay where I feel like we're at? Or do I want to improve it? Because if I understand it's cyclical, then, for example, friends that I haven't been able to keep in touch with recently, after this podcast, I'm going to shoot them a text and say, hey, I was just thinking about you today, and restart that conversation and build us back into a cyclical pattern. Right? I think that most relationships are like that. Most of them, they evolve. And it's up to you and the other person to determine what pattern that's going to take. Because again, you can't control other people. You can only control what you do and I can only control what I do. And so When I understand that all my relationships have a cyclical pattern, then I can be honest about where we're at and then make a plan to get us out of there or get us to where I want us to be. So that's the first part. Those are 10 rapid fire lessons. It's been super fun putting this together. Join us next time for part 2 of the 40 lessons I've learned at 40. As always, you can keep in touch with us at kfmusicstudio.com on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, all the social medias. Make sure that you're connecting with us because, man, we got some great things going on over there, some really cool things coming down the line. So, and if you know of anybody who wants music lessons or needs online musical development, that's our goal. We develop leaders in we develop musicians, developing aspiring musicians in leadership, in confidence, and in character. And so if you know anybody who needs lessons, I would be honored if you would send them to our website, kfmusicstudio.com. All right. I hope that these lessons have been helpful for you. Leave a comment below. Let me know which one that really resonated with you. And I will see you on the next conversation of the 40 lessons we've learned at 40. This has been Kevin from the KF Music Studio podcast, and I'll see you next time.